Okay, so today what I'm going to do is I am going to randomly Google some urban legends, specifically ones from Indonesia and some Hindi ones, maybe some Chinese, Japanese and Vietnamese. We'll see how we go, see what I can find on Google. But first, what is an urban legend? So, according to Wikipedia, an urban legend, urban myth, urban tale, or contemporary legend is a form of modern folklore consisting of fictional stories, often with macabre elements deeply rooted in local culture. These legends can be used for entertainment purposes as well as semi-serious explanations for random events such as disappearances and strange objects. And then it goes on to say, despite its name, urban legends does not necessarily originate in the urban area. Rather, the term is used to differentiate modern legend from traditional folklore of pre-industrial times. By all means, go have a look at the Wikipedia page yourself to read the rest of it. But that's pretty much what an urban legend is. So I have already done a quick Google and I found a site that has 10 creepy urban legends from Indonesia. So here we go. So we've got the number 10, the sweet girl of Angkor Bridge, Indonesia. Alright, let's go down. I've got some ads. Alright. This legend revolves around the ghost of Mariam, a girl that is said to haunt Angkor Bridge in Jakarta, Indonesia. The locals believe that her ghostly presence on Angkor Bridge is the reason behind the many traffic accidents in the area. The sad story of Mariam has its roots from a tragic incident that was said to have happened in the early 1800s. The story goes that Mariam was a servant of a wealthy old merchant. When she was 16, her beauty captivated the wealthy merchant so much that he wanted to have her as a concubine. Such a fate was unthinkable for the young maid, thus she decided to run away instead. While Mariam was wandering around looking for a new place to stay, another rich old guy took notice of her beauty and made some advances, which Mariam rejected. This poor girl. Okay. So, angered by her rejection, he went after her with some of his thugs. Poor Mariam was raped and killed by her suitor, who dumped her body in the nearby rice field. Oh, that was a bit sad. No wonder she's coming back to haunt people. There have since been many reported sightings of ghostly women near Angkor Bridge, whose presence is said to cause traffic accidents to any male motorists. Okay, fair enough. She's going after all the men. Okay, so Cosmetic Sesame. Yeah, South Korea. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. The story goes. Oop. Hang on, sorry, my computer. The story goes that there was once a girl who was extremely conscious of her looks. She was determined to always look beautiful and would try any beauty secret at hand. One day she heard about a new beauty treatment for someone who professed that it was very good for the skin, leaving it smooth and silky. The treatment involves mixing sesame seeds in the bath water and immersing in it for a couple of hours. The girl was excited to try it out and rushed home to give it a go. When several hours had passed and still the girl did not come out from the bathroom, her mother began to worry. But every time her mother began to worry. But every time her mother asked the girl to come out already, her reply would always be, just a moment. In the end, the mother could no longer contain herself and forced open the bathroom door and was shocked at what she saw. The sesame seeds had dotted her daughter's body. It had grown roots and latched onto her skin between every wrinkle and every pore. The girl, mad with grief for her lost beauty, was sitting in the corner and frantically trying to remove the seeds with a toothpick. Oh God, yuck. So I'm guessing that's trying to sort of say, be careful what you do when you're trying to chase beauty trends. Mm-hmm. Okay, Don Simon Bernard's tomb, the Philippines. Okay. In one of the cemeteries in Malabon, Philippines, a statue atop a tomb has been the center of national attention for decades, and it is the source of a creepy urban legend that has terrified adults and youngsters alike. Don Simon, who died in 1934, personally had the statue made by an artisan before his death, and had instructed his children to put it on his tomb. The statue depicts Satan triumph over St. Michael the Archangel. I'm getting tongue-tied. What makes the whole thing even creepier is the stone tablet right beside the statue, which contains a dialogue between Satan and St. Michael, where Satan proclaims dominion over the world of mankind. For such a creepy Christian country, the very thought of Satan triumph and that someone had the gall to make a statue of it was just too much. Thus, it spawned many stories that were passed around for years. It's kind of awesome. The elderly folks living near the cemetery swear that the statue placed on Don Simon's was just a small thing to begin with, but it kept growing each year. Also at night, the statue of the devil is said to come alive and haunt anyone who loiters around the cemetery. Why would you be loitering around a cemetery? It's just creepy. This is said to be the reason why the statue was subsequently encased in an iron cage to protect the people from its devilish antics. A documentary done by a national TV station about the statue and its owner had shed some light on the legend. As it turns out, the statue appeared to grow because the original statue was destroyed by vandals and was replaced by a bigger one, despite the efforts of the Bernardo family to dispel the rumours. Many folks still believe the legend. After all, a good story is always worth believing over some dreary truth. Yeah, fair enough. That's kind of why I enjoy urban legends. It actually has the documentary. I'm going to quickly have a look before I look at anything else. Okay, it's taking too long. Let's go to the next one. Let's just read through these and then... Curse of the Red Room, Japan. It looks like monsters and paranormal forces that find delight in murdering innocent teens. Oh god. Okay. Japan have gone online as well. The Red Room is the internet pop-up that announces your forthcoming death. Nice. You can do nothing, and it is since no... you can do nothing about it since no pop-up blocker can ever stop it from claiming its victim. Oh, so this is the urban legend of the internet world. Okay, so if you were chosen as the Red Room's next victim, the best thing you can do is compose a goodbye letter to your loved ones, for death is sure to come shortly afterwards. Oh, okay. The curse pop-up appears as a red window with Japanese lettering that translates to "Do you like?", accompanied by a cute but sinister voice reading it aloud. When you try and exit the window, things get worse. No matter what you do, the window cannot be closed. Each click of the mouse reveals more letters until the message will finally read, "Do you like the Red Room?" Once the full message is revealed, the computer screen is swathed in red and a list of names will appear on the red backdrop. Names of the victims of the Red Room. What follows soon after is the victim's death by suicide. Why it's called the Red Room? Well, before the poor bugger farts his last fart, that's a nice way of putting it, he paints his room with his own blood. How does he do it? No one knows. We're guessing a scoochie since they spread blood very evenly. Ew, okay. Alright, so Maria Labo, Philippines. Maria Labo, who is said to have lived in one of the island's provinces in the I can't pronounce this word. Visalia was once a happy wife to a policeman and a mother of 2 sweet boys. Okay, but her husband's salary was not enough to make ends meet to help her family get by. Maria opted to work as a caregiver for an old man in town without knowing that the old man was an aswang. Okay, I don't know what that is. The old man was already frail and desperate to die, but as Aswang could not die unless he bequeaths the curse to someone else, taking the opportunity that comes with having a naive village girl at hand, he secretly passed the curse on to Maria. Oh, that's awful. Several months later, the old man dies. Maria, unemployed and hoping to give a better life to her family. She went to Canada as an overseas worker and returned after a couple of years. Maybe it has to do with the cold Canadian air and maple syrup, for it was only when she returned that the curse started manifesting itself. Her hunger for human flesh became unappeasable. Okay, so I'm guessing it's some sort of zombie or like cannibalistic curse. When her husband went home one night, he found their house oddly quiet. Oh no! He went into the kitchen where Maria was cooking dinner. He asked where the kids were, and Maria merely pointed at the large pot atop the stove. When the husband opened the lid of the pot, he saw the kids, chopped up and well seasoned, simmering away in thick broth, ready to be served for dinner. Enraged, her husband grabbed a knife from the kitchen table and struck her. The blows wounded Maria's face and forced her to flee the house. This urban legend started in the early 2000s and is still going strong, especially in the Visayas and oh my god, I can't pronounce these words. Look, I'll put the link so you can read it yourself. It's said that Maria is always on the move and never stays anywhere for long, out of fear that someone might notice what she's an aswang as well. Maybe a time will come when she'll get bored of the Philippines and go somewhere else. Perhaps New Zealand will be to her liking. I'm sure they'll love someone like that in New Zealand. Okay. Number 5. Orang Minyak, Malaysia, or Oily Man, is a ridiculous urban legend that would make any self-respecting Japanese porn director angry for not thinking of the idea first and making a movie out of it. The Orang Minyak is a regular chap who has learned some black magic and uses it with both rob and rub. Okay. With powers granted by Satan himself, he covers his whole body in a black oily substance that makes him practically invisible at night, and makes breaking and entering easy as pie. Oh yeah, apparently the Orang Minyak can also crawl up walls and the sides of tall buildings, as well as jump long distances on rooftops, making him kind of like a sleazy Malaysian version of Venom. The Orang Minyak apparently does not have the usual modus operandi of most monsters. He has no appetite for blood and guts, preferring instead to molest teenage girls and steal expensive appliances. He might not kill people, but who would not be scarred for life if you wake up one night with an oily man groping your privates and then stealing your laptop and your iPhone. What makes this creepy is, unlike the urban legends, the Orang Minyak is still pretty much active in his career, with sightings being reported as recently as 2012. In that incident, the Orang Minyak terrorized an entire village for a couple of weeks. Alright. The Hello Kitty murder, Hong Kong, China. Okay, in 1999, Hong Kong was horrified to hear the details of a grisly murder that happened in the third-floor apartment of Granville Road 31. The victim was a 23-year-old nightclub hostess, Fan Man Yi, who was abducted by 3 men and held captive for more than a month. During the time of her captivity, Miss Fan was tortured mercilessly almost every day until she died. Her body was chopped to pieces and disposed along with the household trash. Her decapitated head was then sewn inside a Hello Kitty doll. And since the media are not known for their subtlety, the crime was dubbed the Hello Kitty murder by Paris. For several weeks, authorities were oblivious of Miss Fan's murder until a 13-year-old girl, a girlfriend of one of the murderers, went to the police complaining that she's haunted by the ghost of a woman her boyfriend helped kill. The police just dismissed the statement of the girl, but she was persistent, deciding that it would be less of a hassle to check the story than be berated by an angry teenager. They inspected the address given and were horrified with what they saw. The suspects were quickly rounded up and given life sentences, but the story did not end there. In the months following the murder, CCTV camera of nearby establishments captures images of a female form lurking in the shadows. Reports of eerie sounds and ghostly flames abound. Due to the ghostly hauntings, the tenants moved out and no one else seemed interested to move in. The owner of the building was forced to close it down and finally demolished it in 2012. Okay. Number 3. So there's 2 more after this. I won't go much longer. The Midnight Bus, Beijing, China. Some of these are really gruesome and awful. A young man was on his way home late one night. The streets were empty except for the occasional motorists, and the only one at the bus stop with him was an old man. Some say an old woman. So there's obviously 2 more versions of this. The midnight bus arrived, and they boarded it without any fuss. The old man took the seat near the front of the bus while the young man sat a couple of rows behind him. There were no other passengers with them. After a while, the bus stopped, and 2 new passengers climbed aboard and sat behind the driver's seat. Several minutes later, the old man suddenly stood up and confronted the young man. He looked angry and accused the young man of stealing his wallet. The young man was angry at being accused of something so preposterous. The argument became more heated until the old man angrily declared that both the men must get off the bus and settle their argument at the nearest police station. The young man at first did not want to go with the old man, but then relented just to settle the matter and prove his innocence. When they got off the bus zoomed away. The young man was startled to see that the old man was no longer angry. In fact, he looked relieved. When he asked the old man what it was all about, the old man answered, "I just saved both our lives." To which the young man responded confused, "Ha, did you see the other 2 passengers? Did you see the 2 passengers? Yes, so what?" replied the young man, still miffed and bewildered. Well, unlike you, I took a closer look. They have no feet. They were just floating on air. Those 2 were ghosts. The next day, the news was all over the midnight bus. It had gone missing along with its driver. For several days, the police tried to locate the bus and finally found it more than 100 kilometers away from its regular route. Inside the bus was a badly decomposed body of the driver. The authorities were even more perplexed and horrified when, upon checking the tank, they found blood instead of petrol. There are several versions of this legend going around, but this is one of the more famous versions. There is even a version with the murdering ghost being that of a young girl and another of Qin dynasty officials. Take whatever version suit you fancy, but this one is clear. The bus rides at Beijing may be worth more than a fare. Oh, okay, this one comes with a really creepy painting. Tamino's Hell, Japan. Number 2. Almost done. Another creepy tale from Japan. Like the Red Room, it involves a curse. The legend is that Tamino's Hell, a poem in a book called The Heart is Like a Rolling Stone, written by Yamamoto I'm so bad at this. It said that anyone who reads the poem aloud will be cursed to suffer, just like Tamino. Some believe that the curse is only to suffer terrible accidents, while the others say the death will surely follow. Hardly anything is known about how the particular urban legend sprouted from the darkest pits of Japanese imagination, but the mystery only adds more creep factor to the whole legend. The poem itself is a horrible read. It conjures very dreadful and graphic images that slowly shred apart the reader's heart, unless, of course, the reader has no heart to begin with. If anyone wants to read the English version of the poem, you can read it here. I'm not going to read it. There are some foolhardy individuals who read the poem aloud and later claim to have suffered no ill effects. However, there are those, and there are a lot of them, who say otherwise. If someone reading this wants to attempt fate and try out the curse, it's true or not, make sure you read it in original Japanese and tell us how it works out afterwards. Best of luck. Yeah, no, not going to read it. If you want to, go ahead, film it, and tell me what happens, but I'm not game. I don't know. Alright, last one. Mae Nak Pra Kanhong, Thailand. Okay, there once lived during the reign of King Mongkut, 1851 to 1868, a beautiful girl named Nak, who was married to a man named Tidmak. The love between Nak and Tidmak bore fruit, and soon Nak was heavy with child. But as the fates would have it, Tidmak was called to serve the army, forcing him to leave his pregnant wife. While Tidmak was away, Nak suffered fatal complications while giving birth and died along with her child. But due to the deep love for her husband, Nak refused to cross over and instead remained as a ghost in her house, or in their house. When Tidmak returned home, still blissfully unaware of his wife's death, he found his beautiful wife and child waiting for him. Not wanting his husband to know of her deathly situation, Nak killed anyone who attempted to warn her husband that he was living with a ghost. And for a time, they lived in a life full of happiness and love, plus the occasional brutal death of nosy neighbours. But Nak could not have it her way for long, as fate again intervened to stop her murdering shenanigans. One day, as Nak was preparing lunch for her husband, she accidentally dropped a lime off the porch. She quickly reached out to catch the lime, but in her haste she overstretched her arm, elongating it to inhuman proportions. Apparently Thai ghosts are like Mr. Fantastic. Unbeknownst to Nak, Tidmak saw the whole thing and at last realised that Nak was a ghost. Fear gripped Tidmak, who did not want to spend his life hitched to a ghost. He fled the house that night and took refuge inside a holy temple so that Nak could not chase after him. Aww. When Nak realised that Tidmak had fled, her grief knew no bounds. Grief quickly turned to anger, and she went on a murdering rampage. Her neighbours got the brunt of her wrath, and dozens died by her hands. Wanting nothing more to do with her, the neighbours hired an exorcist to lock her up in an earthenware jar, Asian Ghostbusters style, and toss the jar over the canal. For years afterwards, the village was at peace. But the story does not end there. Several years later, someone accidentally fished out the jar from the canal and unwittingly released the ghost of Nak. The one who vanquished her this time was the famous Buddhist monk, I'm not going to try, Sam To, who imprisoned her spirit in the bone of her forehead, and bound it on his wristband. The priest from The Exorcist should really take a lesson from this guy. When Sam Ji To died, the relic was said to have passed on to the royal family to make sure Nak would not be released to do harm ever again. Imagine that. She was a royal family jail as well. She has the royal family as jail wardens. So anyway, that's 10 urban legends from around Asia. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Okay, bye.